The Gluttons Part 2 Ashes Behind. A Dungeons and Dragons dark fantasy tale. The sun hadn't risen yet. What passed for dawn was little more than a bruised sky, streaked violet and gray. Ash still drifted on the wind, carried from the ruins of Gloamhollow, once a sleepy town nestled against the River Thorn, now a cautionary tale scorched into the land. Four riders emerged from the fog, cloaked in velvet and silence. They did not speak, for they had fed well. Too well. Lucien rode at the front, his pale face unreadable. His coat was still pressed, high-collared and regal, the silver clasp at his throat untarnished despite the blood staining his cuffs. A letter rested in his inner coat pocket, handwritten in blocky, childlike scrawl. "Please don't take Mama." He had taken her anyway. Behind him, Maera hummed a soft tune, eyes closed as her horse trotted gently beside his. The melody floated through the trees like a ghost's whisper. Brannok lumbered after them, his massive form hunched forward, caked in the smell of old battle and older blood. Silvae rode last, her grey hood low, eyes always scanning the tree-line. The road curled toward the next town, and the Gluttons did not look back. The town of Rookgrave rose from the forest like a stone tomb, fortified, old, and wary. Where Gloamhollow had smelled of bread and beeswax, Rookgrave smelled of burnt sage, rain, and caution. Wards were carved into the wood of doors. Salt lines marked windowsills. Silver chimes dangled from porches, their ringing steady and solemn. And yet, the gates opened for them. The Reeve met them himself, a portly man with sharp eyes and sweat on his brow. "Mercenaries, are you? Gods be thanked. We've lost a caravan. 10 gone. Bloodless. The woods are cursed." Lucien offered a polite smile and a bow. "Then allow us to cleanse them." They were given rooms at the Three-Stone Inn, meals they would not eat, and names they did not use. Whispers in the dark. That evening, Maera stood in the tavern corner with her lute, weaving songs that dripped with longing and dread. Her voice turned heads, then hearts, then minds. Silvae walked the rooftops, quiet as moonlight, leaving no trace but a red-dipped coin in the blacksmith's windowsill. Brannok drank, and when the ale wasn't strong enough, he turned to blood. A barmaid went missing. The Gluttons left her earring on the nightstand. Lucien wandered the chapel. The young priest greeted him warmly, perhaps too warmly. "You've the look of a traveler burdened by truth," he said. "Truth has long since lost its burden," Lucien replied, brushing a finger across the holy altar. It steamed, ever so faintly. The next night, they went into the forest. The trees leaned inward like gossiping old men. Fog crawled low. The only sound was the hush of distant wind, and the crunch of shattered bones. They found the caravan. Torn wheels, shredded harnesses, and gnawed horse skulls. Blood painted in runes. And then they heard them. Bloodbats. Vampires in form only. Feral, winged things with leathery skin and hollow hunger. Forgotten by time. Cursed by neglect. They attacked with screeches. Maera's song cracked bones with thunderous notes. Silvae's blades danced in silence. Brannok caught one mid-leap and slammed it into a tree so hard it split the bark. Lucien uttered a word that turned another to dust where it stood. When the leader, a half-winged horror with the stench of centuries, charged Lucien, the warlock offered no resistance. He whispered a single command. "Obey." It snarled. It failed. It fell. The Gluttons stood unscathed. "Poor creatures," Maera muttered. "Not even monsters anymore." Rookgrave rejoiced. The bells rang. The tavern filled with laughter. Coins flowed. Children sang their names. For once, the Gluttons wore the mask of heroes, and they wore it well. "We should stay," Maera teased. "Take over. Drain them slow." "No," Lucien said. "Something follows." And he was right. He came just before midnight. Cloaked in shadow, wrapped in steel. His armor was scorched, dented, blessed. His blade was too large, and the fire it radiated was divine. He did not knock. He entered the chapel and waited. Lucien arrived first, cloaked in civility. "Ser Darnell Fairbrook," Lucien said softly. "You look like your sister. You murdered her. I liberated her. You fed on her." Lucien smiled, faintly. "Yes." And the chapel erupted in light. Ser Darnell was no ordinary knight. He was a broken man remade in vengeance. His blade, searing grace, was forged by zealotry and love twisted into fury. Brannok charged, roaring, and was flung back into the altar by a single glowing strike. The impact cracked stone and shattered ribs. Maera sang a note to melt his brain, but Darnell's ears bled and he fought on, chanting prayers through broken teeth. Silvae struck from behind, twice, thrice, only for her daggers to bounce off sanctified armor. He turned and broke her arm with the hilt. Lucien fought him last. Steel met spell, fire met void. Radiance flared. Time slowed. They traded words like blades. "You carry guilt like perfume. You carry death like perfume. I am the answer to your sin. You are a footnote in my eternity." When Ser Darnell faltered, Lucien stepped in close and whispered into his ear. "Do you know what her last words were?" The knight's hands trembled. "She begged for her daughter. Not for you." And with that, Lucien drove a black dagger into his heart. They left the body where it fell, wrapped in silk, blade across his chest. They left the heads of the bloodbats on spikes in the square. They left a letter. "Rookgrave is safe. You may thank us later. The Gluttons." And they vanished. The sun rose over Rookgrave. The town wept and prayed. But far across the land, others were already moving. The Church of Pelaer dispatched a crusade. The Order of the Candle began carving wooden stakes and reading ancient laws. A paladin named Valor the Quiet, the last living brother of Ser Darnell, took up his family's blade and began walking east. The Gluttons left a trail of elegance, sorrow, and ash. They did not hide. They simply moved on. "We are not monsters," Lucien said as they crossed the hills. "We are reminders." "Of what?" Maera asked. "That the world is fragile. And we are very, very hungry." The Gluttons rode east, but the wind followed them. Not a gentle wind, but something older, hungry. It whispered through the pine bones of the forest, rattling the branches like ribs. The trees leaned away from them, leaves curling as if scorched. The world, it seemed, was remembering them. Or warning them. Lucien rode ahead in silence. He had not spoken since Gloamhollow, and no one asked him to. His coat, ever immaculate, bore a strange stain beneath the collar. Faint, circular, a whisper of a mark burned there during the battle with Ser Darnell. It pulsed, faintly, beneath the fabric, like a second heartbeat. Maera no longer sang. She rode beside him with her head held high, but her fingers twitched against her belt, sometimes plucking at phantom lute strings. Her eyes were sunken, not with hunger, but with disquiet. Even for a creature like her, poised between predator and poet, the world felt out of tune. Brannok had grown more silent still. He was never one for words, but now he hardly even grunted. His great sword, usually slung casually across his back, was always in hand. Not drawn, but held. As though he expected the trees themselves to bite. Silvae had not slept in days. Or if she had, she did it with eyes open. She studied the shadows not as cover, but as rivals. Her hands never left her daggers. She had begun speaking only in signs. They passed through villages without names. Places that appeared unmarked on maps, where the buildings leaned like dying men and the people watched from behind curtains of string and salt. In one such village, the tavern keeper handed Lucien a drink, refused payment, and whispered, "They said you would come." No one asked who they were. That night, Brannok found a tree weeping blood. A girl's ribbon was tied around its trunk. He burned it. It screamed. On the seventh day, they reached a clearing ringed with ancient stones. The earth was cracked, scorched in spirals. There were no birds. No insects. Just a circle of dust where nothing dared to grow. Lucien stepped into the ring. The others tried to stop him. Maera called out, Silvae hissed, but he ignored them. The wind died. And something answered. A low tone filled the air, not a sound but a pressure. The ground pulsed like breath. Lucien dropped to one knee, eyes wide. He's calling it, Silvae whispered. Again. Maera ran to the edge of the stones. Her hands sparked with magic. Lucien. But Lucien stood now, eyes glowing faintly. His voice wasn't his. You broke the cycle, it said. Then, the voice was gone. The glow faded. Lucien fell backward into Maera's arms, unconscious. They carried him to the next village. The people there were long gone, houses empty, food rotted on tables. On the chapel wall, someone had written in dried blood, "Not even fire stops them." Lucien woke 2 nights later. He said nothing. But he was changed. Thank you so much for listening along. Feel free to leave a like and comment on the video to let me know you like this content. Have a blessed day, and till we meet again, fellow adventurer.